Hey guys, Dr. Jacqueline here as we get rolling from the Wellness Way Centennial, coming to you live solo this evening. Super excited, another great Monday, just coming to you live here, you guys. Paul is not feeling the best, so he's just going to get a little rest tonight. We've had a really long few days, so you guys get me today. So feel free to ask questions. As the title kind of implies, we're talking flu tonight, you guys. We are talking flu shot, flu virus itself, what to be on the lookout for, and kind of why, if you don't know a lot, I get asked this question a lot. It's a little bit funky looking there. About the flu shot. Like, definitely in the last week or two, I've been asked a lot of questions about it, which is why I wanted to cover it today, because it's certainly becoming a pretty hot topic as we go through kind of what we like to call sugar season. Kind of talk as well, no sugar hangover as well, if you joined us for No Sugar October, kind of what the next steps are, because as you're coming out of that piece, I want to just chat a little bit more and deeper about that as well. So hello, we'll ask people to join us and make some posts as they do. So if you are joining me tonight, let me know where you are coming to me from. Give me some interactions, feel free to ask questions. All of those things, any of those things are totally perfect and doable. Oh, get that going here. So I'm going to get this shared onto my other page. There we go. Cool. All right, you guys. So super excited to get going with you tonight. Let's first talk No Sugar October. So kind of the hangover. If you are like, oh crap, like I ate super clean for 30 days, or I really followed a lot of these guidelines for 30 days, what the heck do I do now that it's November? Well, you guys, you can eat like that all the time. So you don't necessarily need to eat like that 24/7, but let's say you've been really restrictive, very receptive to different pieces like what we've been talking about with the no sugar guidelines. That means that you guys should really I always say when you're detoxing, when you're doing no sugar, take those pieces that you loved and interact and use those things every day, like the pieces that you really liked or that worked well for you, or as many meals as a week make sense for you. Maybe all your snacks are now going to follow no sugar guidelines because you really loved how you felt snacking and you know that's a struggle for you. Or maybe you decided as a family you found 3 or 4 things you really love and you're going to put those 3 or 4 recipes into the mix for your family meals. Whatever that looks like, hopefully, basically I always tell patients you should be taking a piece of that and making that permanent. It doesn't have to be 100% of it, but you should really be making a good chunk of that as a guide for you moving forward, that keeps you on track so that you don't veer. The idea is to kind of guide you and keep you like in your lane, so to speak, and keep you from making all these detours. So keeping a good chunk of those items in place is fantastic for you. Hey Flash, good evening. Yes, this month, if you guys haven't seen it, is another lifestyle challenge month. Look out for videos from all the doctors this month if you are on the Wellness Way challenge page on lifestyle tips. So different things that we love to bring you, little hacks, little tips, little tricks, little swaps, things that we love just to help you on your Wellness Way journey, wherever you're at. So definitely hop on the page. There's some great ideas, even as a fellow doc, that I hear other doctors that put out a couple months ago when we did this, and I was like, dang it, we need to do that too. So keep that in mind. It really does make things fun and it can give you some great ideas. So again, no sugar challenge as it ends. Wrap some of that into your daily practices, to your weekly practices as a family, things that you took away that work, that you know you can take to keep yourself on track even through the holidays. Simple swaps, you guys. An easy one is any recipes that you're making for the holidays, like especially with November, with Thanksgiving, you know, not using sugar. It's really easy to use other stuff like xylitol, like stevia. Like, again, you guys, those are easy things that we forget that aren't hard, and really you can't taste the difference. Like, they still turn out great. So stuff like that. All right, so feel free to add some comments as we go through. Let's get into the bread and butter tonight, which is flu. So kind of all about flu shot, flu itself. I really want to dive deep. I've been getting a ton of questions on this. Good evening, Heather. Especially the last few weeks with everything going on. Medical docs are definitely pushing flu shots this year. It's definitely been all over as usual, which is not really anything different. But this is a lot of questions that I start to get each year. So let's just talk simply some of the ingredients. So for those of you that are under Wellness with Care and have had your food allergies tested, and it will say right on the paperwork, do you have an egg allergy? And you're supposed to answer yes if you do. So let me explain the reasoning behind this. So a lot of viruses are grown when it's going through the culturing process for creating a vaccine. It has to grow in something. A very easy something is an egg. So they actually inject the virus into an egg, and that is where it's grown and it matures and continues to divide and develop for production for a vaccine. And so literally, because that's the medium that it is grown within, you can't get the vaccine if you're allergic to eggs because it contains those proteins. And then those proteins are going to be injected directly into your bloodstream. And so for those of you that have had food allergy testing or any type of allergy testing, even from an allergist, if you have an egg allergy, you should not be getting a flu vaccine. And lots of other vaccines are grown in this medium as well. So that is why. So I get asked that question a lot. And I always say, yeah, if it came up on your food allergy testing or any other allergy testing that you've had, right there automatically should be a no. So that is one question that I get a ton. And so that's one thing that I wanted to cover on that front and that side of things. The other piece that I want to talk about when it comes to just the flu shot in general, and this is found right on the CDC's website. So again, this is nothing controversial, it's just the effectiveness purely of the flu vaccine. Flash, yes. So again, the majority, not all of them, but a lot of the vaccines, which is again why you need to look and do the research, a lot of them, not all of them, are grown in eggs. So yes, the answer to that question is a lot of them. So again, whether that's an adult, whether that's a child, like that should be a major consideration if you've had food allergy testing and have eggs, which is very, very common on a lot of people's food allergies. That should be an automatic no if that's the case. So right there. The other piece I wanted to cover, and again, it's right on the CDC's website, is the effectiveness. So again, they say on a good year, it's maybe 50% effective. Most years, you guys, just so you know, once they kind of do the retroactive studies, which means that they look at things after the fact, like a good year is 20% effectiveness. So that means out of 10 people to get the flu shot, literally 2 of them maybe have a use that helps them in some kind of preventable way. That means like 8 out of 10 people literally could get the shot and it's not going to do anything for them. Now here's also some of the reason why. So the flu is a virus. Viruses mutate, that's normal. In addition to that, they have to guess on the flu strains every year. So if you guys don't know this, typically because of the lead time that it takes to produce everything, there's a lot of epidemiologists and different virologists, things like that, that look at what they think is going to be popular in terms of the most prevalent strains. and that is usually guessed on anywhere from 6 to 8 months ahead of time to allow for production. Typically, most flu vaccines contain 4 viruses, so usually they choose 2A strains and 2B strains. So again, influenza A, influenza B, we know that those are typically the most common strains to be floating around each year that most people have issues with, and they just at random, based on what they think and different pieces, choose 2As, 2Bs, throw it into, again, an egg, culture it all, put it all together, and then that is the flu vaccine for the following year, which is, again, 6 to 8 months later. That's part of the reason why it's not that effective, because they literally can't guess and have the production time and the lead time to guess accurately, because they just don't know. It's already out into production when they usually see those spikes starting to come about, when it becomes more prevalent. So again, these are other reasons why, and it says this right on the CDC's website. Again, most years it's 20%. Like, it's been as least effective as 8%, you guys. So even under 10%. Now here's where it starts to be really difficult as well. There are over 200 strains of other viruses and bacteria that produce what's called flu-like symptoms or flu-like illnesses. So these also can get lumped in with the flu, and they don't really know. They know it's about up to 10% that is the same kind of looking thing as the flu, and could, especially if they end up not testing specifically for flu, which oftentimes doesn't happen, they could just, again, junk diagnose it and send a person home and say, all right, you've got the flu. And they're counting that when it may not technically be a flu virus. It could be something that looks like the flu and acts like the flu, but is producing symptoms and isn't an actual flu virus. So again, you guys, I oftentimes, not so much this year's a little bit different, but oftentimes I hear patients that go to either their medical doc or go to the urgent care, and they never actually test them for the flu. They never swab them, they never test them. They just say, okay, like, let's check you out, everything looks good, go home and rest. And they say, come back if you don't feel better within X amount of days. And they don't even test them. So they may diagnose them as having the flu, but they never physically ran a flu test to see if it's a positive. Same thing happens all the time, you guys, for like ear infections, for sinus infections. They never actually swab for the issue. So they never run like a bacterial culture, like any other type of viral culture. Usually it's only upon like the second time in that a lot of that stuff starts to happen, because they're like, man, I'm not feeling any better. And they're like, oh crap, we better do something now. So that is, again, another little like ripple and layer with the flu. Let's talk also, you guys, about why the flu actually hinders your immune function. So why getting the flu shot will actually hinder your function. Yes, Heather, so they do technically have an egg-free one. I do know that most medical practices won't give it freely. Just so you know, usually that is something you have to ask for, or they have to specially order in. It won't necessarily be the ones that they have on hand. So yes, just so you know, it is available without egg, because they do know a lot of people do have egg issues. So they do have a flu shot without egg, but it is usually not that easy to get your hands on, just so you know. So when it kind of comes to work and the flu shot, again, we'll get into that as well a little bit. But just so you guys realize, like, again, just on the percentages alone, like, that does not justify, that's not an effective piece. So, something that's as low as 8%, as maybe on a good year high as maybe 50, and especially when they're misdiagnosing the flu altogether, 10% of cases or more. Again, you're really, maybe a third then are effective, the majority of the years. And then on top of that, you guys, there's what's called adjuvants or activators within the flu vaccine and within any vaccine. So what these things are designed to do is irritate your immune system to activate it, to basically recognize the virus, and it is irritating to not only your immune system, it's irritating to your gut and your gut lining. It's also irritating to your nervous system. So you're activating 3 major systems with these adjuvants, or binders, activators. They're called lots of different things that are within the shot to basically sensitize your system to it, to do something. And they don't even really know how this works. That's a little scary too. Like, they are messing around with systems, not really knowing what they're doing, but just trying to create an effect. That's a little creepy, you guys, because they don't really know what they're messing around with and just hoping that it works. And so again, that actually, so when you hear somebody say like, oh, well, I got the flu shot and then I got sick, that's why. So that literally, that irritation to your system brings your immune system down because it makes it busy doing something. And oftentimes, basically, an advantageous virus or something else can get through and create you being sick because your system is now busy doing something. And so you'll hear that said a lot as well. So literally they'll be like, oh yeah, I got the flu shot, but then I got sick. Okay, well, what are we trying to prevent? Are we trying to keep you well and keeping your systems happy? Or are we trying to create more problems? Like, if you're getting sick after getting a vaccine, like, again, you're creating more problems for yourself. Usually that's what we're trying to prevent. So because your immune system is activated, it does cause a little bit of immune suppression, and it's a very common response to get sick afterwards. So that is not good as well. Correct, Michelle, yes. I hear that so often. So again, a lot of people will get sick afterwards and be like, what the heck? Like, I did what I was supposed to do. And it's because a lot of those ingredients cause some immune suppression, and you may not have gotten the flu, but you could have easily gotten something else. Or sometimes, yeah, maybe it totally activates the flu and you get the flu anyway, which was the whole point of not having it. So again, that's not good. Another thing to think about as well is those toxic ingredients. So a lot of people, a while ago, it was all about thimerosal. So thimerosal, if you guys are not aware, is basically an organic compound and form of mercury. That has been pulled from the majority of vaccines, not all of them. The flu shot is one that often contains thimerosal still to this day, but there's aluminum. So even if it's thimerosal free, or it says it's thimerosal free, most of that has been pulled out of the childhood vaccine schedule, but there's aluminum, which they are finding at this point, and it's still early on, is actually even more damaging to your nervous system. You would never inject liquid aluminum into your bloodstream. Like, that is very, very toxic. It's a heavy metal, and that's a preservative, and the amounts within the vaccine are higher than the EPA. So the Environmental Protection Agency has safe and acceptable amounts, and a vaccine has more than that. And you're just injecting it straight into your system. And so again, the EPA knows safe levels for these things and these heavy metal exposures, and you're going above and beyond, and basically you're bypassing also. So one thing I wanted to also chat about is just thinking about how, if you don't bypass the systems, how it would get into your system normally. So normally it comes through your barriers, and it goes through each layer, and it does that for a very specific reason, and it activates your immune system in a very specific order. And there's a reason behind that, and it does different things, and there's a whole process to it. When you inject it directly into your bloodstream, you bypass all of that. That is not natural. That is not supposed to happen that way, and that's again why it can be extra irritating to people's immune systems and functions, and why it could not sit well with you. On top of all those other pieces. So normally you're supposed to breathe things in. It goes through the lungs. Maybe you have a cut. Again, you have lots of layers of skin. You have immune cells there. There's lots of things that happen, and exposures and activations that all cascade and take place, and you're bypassing all of that. That is not normal. So things to, again, just to think about in a common sense way of how the immune system should be activated. What pieces it's supposed to have happen as these things get activated. So these are all important ingredients. Again, there's usually other things like MSG. Most people would not eat MSG. So monosodium glutamate is also typically in most vaccines. There's a whole ingredient list of basically like just inactive ingredients, similar to medications. Like it'll have the active ingredients that are within, and then the inactive ingredients below. And if you guys have never looked at an actual insert for a vaccine, it is like you unfold the paper and it's long. Like it's a front and a back, and they, any medical practitioner is supposed to give that to you so that you can read that ahead of time, not after the fact. It gives warnings, it gives side effects, it gives you things that could happen, and that's for every single medication and vaccine. Like that, those basically ingredient lists and warnings and all of that is supposed to be given to you ahead of time to make an educated choice. So again, we talked about the effectiveness. We've talked about the medium that it's grown in. We've talked about some of the other ingredients that aren't good, the fact that it's immune suppressing. So again, like it's really the cards are stacked in the wrong direction, especially for something that they guess on every year. The other piece of that is you can do other things like what we have preached for the wellness way, which is, how about you just start with the best offense is a good defense, you guys. Why don't you just start with strengthening your own system so that you just don't get sick in the first place? Let's start there, you guys. Again, if you are wondering, okay, what do I do? Well, you guys know sugar. October was a fantastic start. Sugar, you guys, super inflammatory, super irritating to your immune function, to your gut function. 80% of your immune function's in your gut, you guys. So if your gut is pissed off all the time, it is highly likely that you get sick fairly easily. Also, stress, you guys. Stress and sugar together, it's like the perfect storm. We always joke, it is not cold and flu season. It is truly stress and sugar season. Like, you're not doing the things that you do the rest of the year. And you just let things slide, and you probably overcommit, and you're stressed out, and you're eating things you shouldn't, and you stop moving less, and it gets darker, so you just want to hibernate. Again, it just starts being this domino effect, so of course you're going to get sick easier. Duh, it's a no-brainer. So let's kind of talk other things that we can do, again, to build our offense. So first and foremost, the very best thing that you can do is to test. So know what your immune system is doing. So running an immune system panel with a Wellness Way practitioner, huge leg up. Also running your vitamin D levels, which any practitioner can run these panels. Obviously, as Wellness Way docs, that's something we do all the time. But knowing your D levels, knowing where your immune system stands, those two things alone and just having that information are super helpful, so you can be very specific and intentional on what you're supporting and how much to do. If you aren't sure, I always say, so okay, vitamin D. We're getting to that point, okay, we just fell back. It is getting dark now here in Colorado at like 5:15. That means you gotta start supplementing with vitamin D. Like, we can no longer get enough sunshine, get out in the sun. If you're probably down south, like we're talking Tucson, Florida, so quite a bit south, you're probably fine if you're getting enough sun exposure to continue not to supplement. But for the rest of the country, which is the majority of us at this point, you better start supplementing vitamin D. So what I always recommend, obviously supplementing according to your vitamin D level. If you don't know it, 10,000 IUs a day is a good starting place. So if you're not sure, that basically is vitamin D3 with vitamin K. So that's the best form of vitamin D to start taking if you haven't been. Vitamin C, you guys, vitamin C is super, also very, very effective for your immune function. They've done a lot of studies on how vitamin C specifically can help combat the flu. So again, if you do get some type of flu going on, vitamin C is a fantastic one to have. I always say eat it if you can. So going for a citrus type of fruit that's going to naturally have a lot of C in it is a great option. If that is just not an option, or you just don't feel like you can get enough, you can certainly supplement it. Again, looking for a high quality vitamin C supplement, that's fantastic. So that is another really, really great one to do enough of. Zinc. Zinc is extremely important for your immune function. That's another great one, especially for the flu and other types of viruses that kind of attack that same area within the body. Zinc is a huge combator to block a lot of those viruses from getting in. So it blocks a lot of those receptors. It's an excellent option for, again, setting up that wall, setting up that brick defense system. And actually, just those few things alone, they have done studies, and it's again very safe, very effective, you guys. So let's talk about, again, creating that offense. And if testing is just financially not an option for you right now, these are easy, inexpensive things that everyone can go do. Again, going back to gut health, you guys, gut health, paying attention to what your gut is doing, making sure that your flora is healthy, so that your gut bacteria, your gut environment, making sure you're not constantly inflamed, eating inflammatory foods. So things like gluten, things like dairy, things like eggs, which are on a lot of people's food allergy lists. These are all things that, again, you can do on a regular basis to make sure that you are taking care of your body. And so those are all extremely good things to do. Another great one is green tea. So in case you didn't know this, specifically against the flu virus, green tea is extremely effective as well. So in terms of kids, that's, again, they can drink a little bit of green tea. For adults, you can drink the green tea. You can take green tea tree extract. Again, there's a lot of what's called antioxidants in green tea, and those help block specifically that flu virus from getting into your system and starting to replicate itself and creating that sick piece for you. So the key is, you guys, in case you don't know these things, a virus is not a live thing. So it has to be able to bypass all of your barriers, get into a cell, and get in and be able to attack your cell and start to replicate itself. There's a lot of pieces that have to happen for that to happen. It shouldn't be that easy, and it sounds like it's not that easy, and it shouldn't be. So a normal, healthy adult that is truly taking care of themselves, you really shouldn't get sick that easily. Kiddos are a little bit different because they're still building some of their barriers. They're still building their immune function. So we expect them to get sick, and that's okay. Like for a child, that's a good thing, because you have to give their system a chance to teach itself what to do. And for most of us, you guys, again, in those circumstances where you do get sick, view it, and I know it is not fun in the process, but it's a learning piece. For whatever reason, maybe you ran down your system and you know it. Like for me, typically, if I don't feel well, I know that I did it to myself. I didn't sleep enough. I didn't do the things that I needed to do to stay well. And most adults, if you really ask them, they know that. Kids are a little bit differently just because their systems are still getting going and they have to learn and be exposed to things. And actually, the more exposures that they have, that strengthens their systems. That's a very good thing for kids. Adults, typically, if they stress themselves out, they didn't eat right, they didn't sleep, they know that they got themselves sick. So again, you guys, it's about putting your boundaries up, taking care of yourself, doing some of the supplements that we talked about. Sleep, again, sleep is huge, you guys. If you are well rested, again, and your system does what's called rebuild overnight. So it is the rest and the digest, the rebuilding phases, the reconstruction phases all happen overnight. So if your body isn't getting enough time to have those processes take place, take that cell turnover, help your system to just rebuild, replenish everything, and it doesn't have enough time to do that, yeah, you're going to wear yourself down. It is, quote unquote, burning the candle at both ends, and it will catch up to you at some point. So again, I cannot, and these are easy things to do that do not cost you money. Eating right, making sure you're sleeping enough, making sure that you are feeding good food into your system, making sure that you're taking care of that gut health. Correct, Flash, yes. So again, doing little quote-unquote updates every night, that's a great way to think about sleep. There's a lot of things that happen when you sleep, and again, if your system doesn't have enough time to go through your REM sleep cycles, all of those pieces, those things are very, very important to your system. And so you're missing out on things if it doesn't happen in the amount of time that it is supposed to. Cherry black tea. So green tea and black tea are different. So black tea definitely has a few benefits as well, but green tea is the one that you need when it comes to the flu specifically, because the antioxidants in green tea are the ones that you want. So I always encourage patients, tea, yes, but definitely green tea. Echinacea, you guys, that's another one that most people know about. So again, if you are not feeling well, echinacea is a fantastic one that can reduce specifically the flu risk. This is also one, you guys, that's super effective for kids. So for those of you that have kids out there, echinacea in particular was shown to really help them fight the flu virus even more so than adults. So a lot of people know about echinacea. We sell liquid echinacea, and in the office you can get it, in natural grocers as well, in capsules, in tinctures, and homeopathics. I mean, it's sold all kinds of ways. You can do echinacea tea. That's another one that's sold in tea form, so you could certainly just drink some echinacea tea. That's fantastic. We already talked about sugar, you guys. So again, similar to bacteria, viruses feed and need fuel. So sugar, if the more sugar that you're eating, you guys, it's easy fuel for the body. So those are like the biggest things that I want to go over. Again, hand washing. Yes, hand washing is a good thing, you guys. There's nothing wrong with hand washing. Simply soap and water, warm water, washing your hands for 20 seconds throughout the day, a few times a day. That does a lot right there, you guys. You don't need fancy antibacterial this, antiviral that. Literally just good old soap and water. Colloidal silver is another one that I love to point out. Colloidal silver, again, we sell in our office. It's a very high quality one. I've seen it everywhere though. Natural grocers, Whole Foods. That kills everything, you guys. Viruses, bacteria, yeast, parasites. Like colloidal silver kills all kinds of stuff. That is a great one. You can use it topically, you can use it orally, and that's a great one again to have around given stuff this time of year, as well as essential oils. So love essential oils, going more to the Ayurvedic practices. Yes, there's a whole history with oils and more Eastern medicine practices, and so those are very effective things as well. Mar, I'm going to come back to you in just a second. So Heidi, for a 2-year-old, if they're getting sick, I would say I would roll. Now here's the hard part with our echinacea. our echinacea is super activated, so it's going to make their tongue tingle. First of all, if you've never taken it straight up, which is normal, that means it's working properly. Echinacea should make your tongue tingle when you take it. So just trying to get it into them might be, you might want to sweeten it with stevia. Heidi, you might want to throw it into like a little bit of water to kind of cut some of the tingly piece, or with something else. I would give them at least a half a teaspoon, probably twice a day if you feel like they are really going to come down with something, or if they're actively fighting something. What I would do is give them about a half a teaspoon twice a day, just while they are going through that tougher piece, which is probably going to be a couple days worth. And then you can really back down off of it after that. So that is super, super important. Flash silver, yes. So the thing with colloidal silver is the Wellness Way one is what is called hydrolyzed with electrons. And so what it means is it's taken through a very specific process. You are welcome, Heidi. Yeah, that's one, again, you're not, it just might be a little bit tough to get it down, but it'd be very good for them. So a lot of the cheaper ones may not have as fine of a particle size. Ours is 500 parts per million. So not all of the colloidal silvers out there are that strong. But what it does is silver is actually toxic to all of those things that I talked about. So viruses, bacteria, yeast, any type of parasites. So as they come in contact, they kind of act like a little bit of an immune system response, and they'll go and attack things and attach to them. And by doing that, it basically inactivates them. But the cool part is it won't affect your own cells. So that's the really cool thing with silver. So it's able to be used a lot of ways. Obviously, like we were kind of talking about with aluminum, if it isn't in this specific form, yes, it is toxic. I get asked that question a lot. But the way that colloidal silver is done, like I said, in a proper lab with the electromicrolysis, and I don't know all the fancy things that they do with it, that makes it very, very effective. So it will be toxic to those items, but not to your cells. But again, it's not something I want patients to utilize long term. We want to just use it over the course of a few, winter months, or if you're not feeling well for, several days, things like that. Even our colloidal silver, I'm not going to put a patient on that for too long, because eventually it does, take some time to get out of your system, and you don't want too much of it hanging out in there. So, Mar, I wanted to come back to you. We're hearing some squeaking, some crackling. So, there's a couple of things, Mar, coming back to your question that this could be. First and foremost, it could simply be hydration. So if you are dehydrated in any way, that can make your joints sound funny. That can make ligaments and bones and different pieces as you move sound funny. That is one side of it. So it could literally just be the fact that you could be a little bit dehydrated. And you'll definitely hear that with yoga, especially when you're holding some different postures and moving through the vinyasas. As far as squeaking, crackling, I always say, again, if it doesn't hurt, again, that is to a degree normal. So if it doesn't really hurt and you're just kind of hearing that snap, crackle, pop when you're moving around, that could be it as well. You're just pushing some ranges of motion open. And if things don't hurt when you do that, it is literally just oxygen the majority of the time being released. So oxygen is dissolved in all of our joints. Some people have more of it than others. That's why some people make a ton of noise when they move around and do things and others don't. So again, Mar, that could simply just be you, where you have some of that moving around. The other piece is just making sure you do bone broth and bone broth protein powder. So again, typically if you feel like things are squeaking, crackling, getting a little uncomfortable, or you are just worried about your joint health, bone integrity, that is one of the best building blocks that you can give your system, is that bone broth or bone broth protein powder, because you're actually taking in the thing that helps build those items up also. So those things are all kind of important considerations when it comes to your joint health and your bone health. But I would say too, if it doesn't really hurt and you know that you're hydrated, I wouldn't stress too much about it. But if you're not doing a lot of bone broth or bone broth protein, definitely throw that back into the mix if that's something that you know you're not getting enough of. So, those are the big things. I don't believe I have too many other things to cover. Again, if you guys have more questions, let me know. This is a really big topic, which we could spend a ton more time on, but I wanted to just kind of cover the basics. That way you kind of understand everything. And again, I always say, if you get the flu, usually too, which I kind of alluded to this earlier, it's not a big deal. Yes, it sucks when you don't feel well. Yes, it sucks when your littles come down with, not feeling well. But usually it's not a big deal. Like, everybody's back up on their feet within a few days, maybe a week or two, to be back to 100%. And it is not this huge deal. So that's also a little bit of my frustration piece. Like, when did it become such a big deal to get the flu? Like, most of us go through and have the flu, and it's not a big deal. So yes, Mar. So definitely for cold sores, silver is fantastic, and you can use that topically, and I would also do it orally if you have an active cold sore. The other really good thing for cold sores is lysine. So lysine in particular really helps knock out your viral load. And so that's a really great one as well to be taking if you know you have that active virus really, bothering your system. So yes. So hopefully that helps you guys. I really hope that you found some great information tonight. If you found some valuable pieces that you know other people will appreciate, go ahead and tag them in the video, like it, and share it with them so that they can get some value, get some answers, get some more information. That is what we're all about. Just sharing more information so that you guys are equipped, so that you have questions that get answered. So I hope that we got some clarity on a few different items tonight. So hope you're having a great week. Hope you have a happy Monday. I hope you got out there and voted, you guys. We got our ballots in over the weekend. So that is the key. And we, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice, you guys. So dehydration. Okay, good, Mar. I'm glad. Yeah, definitely hydrate. So minimum, Mar, half your body weight in ounces. Half your body weight in ounces. So really make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you got enough electrolytes. So hope that helps. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll chat with you soon. Happy Monday.